So what we're going to do is head inside the service. Now we have a function that does get passengers. All we're going to do is copy this and we're going to change the name to update passenger. So we can remove the S on here. We're going to get a passenger object passed in to us. So we can again say that's of type passenger. We can then change the get to a put because we want to make a put request. So alongside our passenger API, we can do plus, and then because we're going to talk to an individual passenger, we can add that passenger's ID. So what we're going to do is passenger.id. Now we can do it this way. However, what we're going to do is convert it over to using ES6 strings. So what we're going to do is $, and then this object, and then another object here. And what we're going to use is a backtick at the front. And we'll simply wrap this in an object as well. We'll put a backtick at the beginning and a $sign. So in fact, this is the equivalent of what we've just done. But it essentially allows us to compose strings with JavaScript properties inside if you haven't used this already. So the final thing here is we are not actually returning an array of passengers, we are just returning one passenger. So when we update a passenger, we're actually going to send that passenger back because we are just talking to a single passenger. So because we're using .put, we actually need to pass the passenger that we're making the request to so it knows which one to talk to. So it's going to make a request to something like /2 or /1 depending which one we talk to, and then we pass that passenger that we get back through here. So we'll copy the update service, we'll save this out, go into our dashboard component. Now we've already got the logic for this set up, so this is actually going to be quite simple. So all we need to do is reference this .passenger service, and we're going to call update passenger. All we're going to do is pass in the event. So you can see here that the event is of type passenger. We're going to update that particular passenger. Now again, because it's an observable, we need to subscribe to it. We're going to get the data back. It's going to be of type passenger. We're going to use our arrow function. Now inside of here is what we actually want to use this logic. So if the request was successful, we can then update our API. So that's all you need to do. You need to simply just wrap it in a service call. So in the browser, you can see our airline passenger list as usual. Now, when we click edit, we can go ahead and rename to Motto. We can click done. You can see that this has now been locally saved. However, if we refresh the page, you can see that this is being persisted. So let's actually open up the DevTools and see what's happening. So if we change this back to Stephen and click done, you can see it's made that put request to passengers /1. It's updated Stephen. So this change will actually be locally saved to your db.json file. So any changes that you make inside of these, you will actually see them updated if you open the file. So you can see I can change it back, I can refresh the page, it's going to make the request again to pull in all of the passengers, and all of the data is being persisted. So let's go back and add the ability to remove our passengers. All we need to do is simply go ahead and we'll copy this function again and paste it below. Now what we're going to do is in fact call it remove passenger. It's going to take a passenger as an object. It's going to take a passenger through the arguments of type passenger. It's also going to return an observable. However, this time we're going to use the delete. So this time we do not need to pass the individual passenger. We can just simply reference the full URL of the passenger that we want to delete. Now, if we check the db.json, you can actually see that this has persisted my name change. So any changes inside of here that you make, you will need to restart your server. However, any changes in the browser, this will actually read and write from. So we don't really want to touch that if you can help it. So now we've created this remove passenger. We've learned about how to use HTTP GET. We've learned put. We've learned delete. I'm sure you can work out how to use post. So what we're going to do is use the remove passenger inside our dashboard component. So inside of here, we've done the handle edit, and we've done this passenger service, update the passenger. So inside of here, as you probably guessed by now, we're going to this dot passenger service, and we are going to call remove passenger. So you can see we're getting the event through. We also need to subscribe. We're going to get our data back. It's going to be of type passenger. And inside of here, what we can do is simply move the logic below up into the function. So I'm going to copy this and we'll just paste this in and format this nicely. So what will happen here is the handle remove function will get called, and as before, it will remove it from our array. However, before that, it's going to communicate with our passenger service. So it's going to make the delete request via the remove passenger. It passes the passenger in. We then subscribe to the event, which gives us the passenger. And then inside of there, because we're using an arrow function, we have access to this.passengers. So let's go and try this out, and bear in mind that any changes that we make will actually update this db.json. So what I'm going to do is actually delete James. However, I'm going to copy his local object so I can add it back after we've deleted it. So we'll go ahead, save this out, and go back to the browser and delete James. So as usual, we can scroll down. As promised, we said that we would remove James. So we've clicked remove. He's gone from our first list. He's also gone from our second list. When we press refresh, you can see that he is no longer there. So the way that we can confirm this is by checking our db.json file. So let's go back and have a look. So we'll go back into db.json and you can see that James has been obliterated. We have ID of 1, 2, and 4. So what I'm going to do is paste James back in, just so we have him available again. So in this video, you have learned how to use the HTTP module. We've imported HTTP. We've then injected it into here. We've created a few functions called get passengers, update passengers, remove passenger. We've then used this.http. We've used the get method. We've used the put method. We've used the delete method. We've learned how to use an observable and subscribe to it inside our dashboard component. So inside of here, you can see that our initial data request is being made. So this is typically where you'll want to make your first data requests. Inside of here, we're then using our handle edit to talk to our service that we've set up. We're then subscribing to it. Inside the handle remove, we're calling the handle remove. And then we're just implementing that logic like we have done in loads of the previous videos. So at this point, you should be very familiar and you should be very confident in using the HTTP module with Angular.